Good evening and thank you for joining us on this edition of Capital Market. I'm Temple Ashaju. Before we kick off with the show, let's remind you of our social media handles at Channels TV and at CTV Temple, where you can join the conversation that we'll be having on the show this evening. The NAS, the Securities Exchange, is one of the major parts of the Nigerian capital market on our radar. This program, Capital Market, now the management of that platform late last year introduced an enterprise portal to ease debt burden for entrepreneurs and raise capital from the private equity market seamlessly. Now, about 4 months after the approval was obtained from the Securities and Exchange Commission, the product known as NASDEP for short will be examining that tonight on the show to look at how far it's gone ahead of the launch, which is coming up in April. But that's later on the program. For now, let's refresh our memories with some news that we had this week in the capital market space. Let's take off with the company news from Seplat. Seplat, the petroleum development company, this week announced that it has completed its offering of $350 million in aggregate principal amount of 9.25% senior notes due 2023. The notes was issued by the company and guaranteed by some of its subsidiaries, with the proceeds built to be used for refinancing of existing indebtedness and for general corporate purposes. Now, Seplat says the note is not available to Nigeria and United States, but to certain investors with the European Economic Area. Now, let's look at what's other story from Prestige Assurance. The ordinary shares of Prestige Assurance PLC was suspended from trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange this Friday, March the 23rd of 2018. The suspension, which is in line with the firm's no objection request, aims to enable the company's registrars update the register of shareholders for the planned share capital reconstruction of the company. In August last year, Prestige Assurance proposed to reduce the company's share capital from over 2 billion naira, being 5.37 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each, to over 1.9 billion naira of 3.81 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. The suspension ends on Tuesday, March the 27th of 2018. And over to the bonds market, where we'll bring you some updates on the primary market auction that took place this week. Nigeria raised 64.06 billion naira, or 210 million US dollars at Wednesday's auction of the government's bond, less than it originally planned, but at lower yields. The debt management office initially aimed to raise 70 billion naira, but sold 10.05 billion naira in 5-year bonds at 13.40% and 45.10 billion naira in 10-year debt and 13.60%. The debt office, however, introduced the new 7-year paper at 13.53% to raise 8.91 billion naira, with subscriptions of 142.81 billion naira drawn at the end of the day. And now a bit of earnings. Access Bank was one of the main earnings that came in this week. Access Bank Financial Calendar 2017 shows a 20.39% growth in gross earnings from 381.32 billion naira in FY 2016 to 459 billion naira for 2017. Major contributors to the top line figure includes the net interest income that grew by 17.47% to 163 billion naira from 139 billion naira in the preceding year. Now, the financial statement also revealed a 59.80% drop in other operating income to 8.02 billion naira. Now let's do some of the UBA earnings too. United Bank for Africa full year 2017 result was released also this week, showing growth in top and bottom line items. Gross earnings was up 20.31% to 461 billion naira, while profit after tax increased 8.75 percent to 78.59 billion naira. Now, net interest income was 25.69% higher than previous year's record at 207.63 billion naira, as interest income this time notched up 23.37% to 325.66 billion naira, growing at a faster pace than interest expense. And now let's review the markets where we've got bonds and treasury bills. Trading in the bonds market this week was largely bearish over the course of the 5-day trading session. The DMO conducted a primary market bond auction selling 64 billion naira across the 5-year, 7-year and 10-year bonds, as we stated earlier, with stop rates coming in line with secondary market levels. Notably, yields on bonds advanced 10 basis points week on week on average. You look at the numbers on the screen, we had 79 deals and a total of 8.70 billion naira. The secondary side of the market, where you find at the FMDQ OTC yesterday, Friday. And in terms of the treasury bills on T-bills front, the CBN opens the week with an OMO auction announcement selling 116 billion naira on the 100 day till maturity and 226 day till maturity at the market. Treasury bills for yesterday, Friday, the 23rd of March. Numbers coming in from FMDQ also shows number of deals at 308, and the total value of the transaction is put at 116.80 billion naira. In terms of all that was transacted, the bonds and T-bills secondary market of the FMDQ also says total is 387 deals and 125.50 billion naira. A bit of the unlisted securities market now, but the USI increased 0.23% and closing at 662.80 with a market capitalization of 448.53 billion naira. Year-to-date deals and year-to-date value is what you have right there on the other side of the screen. And before we move on, let's look at the equity markets, which means a lot to us here. The Nigerian equity market rounded off the week on a negative note, losing 36 basis points on Friday and 111 basis points week on week to further trim year-to-date returns to 8.4%. The consumer goods sector was the major drag on Friday, following losses on PZ, Nestle, and Nigerian breweries. And all other key sectors closed higher yesterday, with the banking sector trading 312 basis points. And at the front of that front, thanks to Diamond Bank, Zenith Bank, and Guarantee Trust Bank. The industrial goods, oil and gas sector were all pushed by WAPCO, as well as the Etana PLC. Both sectors still declined 286 basis points and 206 basis points.